everybody, I'm here today chatting with the lovely Abie Longstaff and Lauren Beard. How are you both?
Good, thanks. Great to see you.
Yay.
Very well, thank you.
Okay, so I always start off with this question with every interview, because we might have some people watching that are like super fans and they've read all of your books, and we might have some people watching that may have not come across both of your work before. So could you give us a little introduction about yourselves and maybe let us step into your worlds for a little bit? Whoever wants to go first.
Shall I go first? I don't know.
Sure.
I'm Abie. I write. So Lauren does the pictures and I write. So together we make the Fairytale Hairdresser, which is about 13 books now. We've done loads of them. But I also write a lot of other books. I've written probably about 50 books, I think, for children.
Okay.
And they go from maybe roughly age 2 to about age 11. And so they sort of get older, and they have fewer and fewer pictures in the more that I do them. So a whole pile of different stuff, but lots of like magic and fantasy and fun things like that.
Cool. And how about yourself, Lauren?
Yes, so I'm the illustrator and I sort of design the characters of Fairytale Hairdresser, and and I just can, Abie gives me the amazing stories and then it just fuels my imagination, really.
Yeah, okay. So I feel like this is going to come up because this interview is going to a lot of kind of like young writers or people that possibly want to become writers or whatever their journey takes them. And Abie, you studied law, or you began studying law. And I generally ask this question to everyone about how they kind of ended up where they are. And, you know, some people, it kind of like, they just bang into it somehow and it kind of like clicks. Some people wanted to be a writer from when they were like 1 year old and work towards that. And so you studied law and you did a degree in law, and you're here now. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that journey and how that decision kind of came about?
Well, I definitely think that to be a writer, you don't have to do English. You know, you can do any subject that interests you. And I think it's really great. Whatever your passion is, just follow that subject. I've got friends who were archaeologists before, friends who were teachers before. So writing can come from anywhere. And I think we're really lucky nowadays that there's this concept of a portfolio career. So you can just spend a while like following your heart and then going, oh, I think I'll try this instead. So for me, I really enjoyed law. I really loved it. And then I started writing, which I'd always done as a child, just like scribbling in notebooks and things. And then for a while, I did both jobs at the same time. I did 3 days as a lawyer and a few days as a writer. And that came to a point that I had to choose. But I think it's quite freeing, that idea that if you're young, you just do whatever you want to do, and then you will always be able to change. Like even if you're 30, 40, you can still change career. So you never should feel trapped by what you're studying. You can always move on. Yeah,
I mean, absolutely. I think, you know, as I say, we've talked to authors before and they've kind of like almost accidentally fell into it, not through like luck. It still comes through skill and hard work, and you know, there's no denying that. But you know, it just happens, and in a weird kind of larger sense of the way, it's always nice to sort of think that if it's meant to be, it will be, and if it's your passion, if you love doing it, just work towards it, and you'll end up there. And so then coming on to Lauren, actually, I feel you had the sort of the opposite. You know, you said, I read that you really enjoyed reading as a kid, and you used to kind of like make drawings to go with the books, and then you sort of like fit into this really well and did have that wanting it from childhood. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I always loved drawing. It was just like a big passion. And then I kind of went on to study it at college, and then I did my art foundation, which was like a really good year for me because you do a lot of different art. And I had a really encouraging teacher who was like, oh, you're very good at storytelling through image, so you should go towards illustration. So then I did my degree. But then when I finished my degree, kind of worked in a lot of hospitality jobs and everything for a while. And then I managed to get an agent, and then so it was quite a slow process. It wasn't straight away. And then I've always had like second jobs to help support starting off and everything like that. So but yeah, it's just something that I always wanted to do, and I feel very like lucky to end up being able to do it. But I would always draw no matter what, so it's just a proper full-on passion for me. So
yeah. it's lovely to get both sides, and I think, you know, your story kind of says that if there's a calling, if it's what you want to do, then you'll end up there, and it's a freeing sense of, you know, I completely agree, you can do what you love and do what you enjoy, and it doesn't matter if that's changing. And then, you know, Lauren, your story is you know, long filled passion, and it's something that you always wanted to do, and I think it's amazing, and both stories are really valid, and we try and like get that across to people, that like to try and worry less. I think now it's very much like in school, 14, right, what are you going to be? You're going to be a doctor, you're going to do this, and like no one really has a clue at that age.
You know, it's true. And I think the thing is, nobody knows. People think they know. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, and I did for a long time, but I think it's quite scary when you're young, and like everyone's like, oh, they've got a plan and they're going to university and they're doing this, and you feel like my son is a blacksmith. So he didn't do A levels, he did a BTEC, and now he works with metal all day, and he absolutely loves it. But if he changed his mind, he could go off to university then. And I think it's good to know, like, you don't have to just find a thing right away when you're 14.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And I think, quite honestly, the secret to life is that I don't know if anyone knows what they're doing or what at any time, you know, because you could both turn around or myself and be like, actually, I want to become a doctor now, and then go and do it. And that's exactly it. And that's the fun thing about life as it was. But you know, we now come to your journeys coming together, and we have, as you said, the 13 books of the Fairytale Hairdresser series. So let us into the world of the Fairytale Hairdresser.
Well, a Fairytale Hairdresser, I kind of like to think of it as like Shrek with hair. So it's like a world it's the whole high street of different shops, and all the characters are hanging out together, and we try to make it like super modern and super fun and quite contemporary. Like our main character has the salon in the center of town, and it's kind of like the hangout place where you go to have like a hot chocolate and have your hair done and have a chat and everything. But it's full of adventures, and it's kind of there's loads of different jobs going on, loads of different life going on. So it's not all just about like having haircut. It's about like, you know, going to fight sea witches under the water, and we quite like that kind of adventure side. And there's a lot of kind of little jokes in there about different fairytale characters. So they've been so much fun to write, haven't they, and Lauren, and to draw as well. Just like together, we just have the best time making up all kinds of things for them to do.
And that actually kind of takes me on to my next question, is that you are now 13 or 14 or a lot of books into the series, and it's really lovely that you both are there together doing it. I think, you know, oftentimes you see like they switch around, or actually the series doesn't go on for that long. So how do you find it? I'm sure this is a positive response, but how do you find it working together, you know, on every book, and taking that journey together, and having that creative relationship?
Yeah, I mean, it does get controlled, doesn't it, by the editor very much. Like usually it's the editor sort of the middle point between us, but I love having Lauren because she's got the same sense of humor as me. And so we kind of spark off each other. And when we do see each other at Lit Fest, we always spend a bit of time just going, okay, we need the wolf in Red Riding Hood. What kind of wolf should we do? And we always have a sort of underlying theme. So this time it was steampunk. And we were like, oh my goodness, let's have a steampunk wolf and let's do this. And so we do spark off each other a lot. I mean, for me, I really love that side of the process. So you have to ask Lauren.
Yeah, I think me and Abby have a very sort of similar sense of humor, and I think we kind of sort of have the sort of same idea, don't we, with how it's going to go, and the sort of characters, how they're going to behave and look, and what they're going to get up to. I think it just clicks really well. Like, yeah.
And then the latest one is a little soiree into Red Riding Hood, I believe.
Yeah, I'll show you actually. I've got it here somewhere. Oh yes, here we are. La, la. Yeah, it's Red Riding Hood.
So what happens in this book?
Fun. Well, this one is it's Granny's gone missing and nobody knows where she is, and she's been sort of kidnapped. But we kind of like to sneak all kinds of themes into our book. Like we've got our steampunk theme, but there's a little bit about kind of craft versus factory in there, like the little granny who's making her cakes, and she's kidnapped by this steampunk wolf who owns a huge factory, and he just wants her to be at the conveyor belt making cakes. So I don't know if like 4-year-old children would pick up on all of the themes in our book, but they are quite layered. So like you can read them as an older person or as a parent and get little extra jokes in there. But really, I think the kids just think of it as like a brilliantly fun adventure, and there's loads of excitement, and then there's some hair being done as well, and cakes, and so it's kind of, it's a bit like a pantomime. We try to think of it like that, like bits for the adults and bits for the children as well. It's been such great fun to do, hasn't it, Laura, in this book?
Yeah, it was a good one. Yeah. Great story.
And for, I mean, this goes to both of you, but 13 books is a lot of books in a series, and obviously they're for younger children, so they're a bit shorter, they're not like novel length, but it's impressive that it's you've rolled out this many, and it's really great that you keep coming back with these like really creative and fun and exciting ideas that some people might struggle with. There's like in music, there's always the worry of like the second album syndrome of what, and you're 13 times on. So where do you kind of draw, I mean, obviously they're based on fairy tales, but where do you kind of like draw the inspiration to keep creating and keep coming up with these like marvelous adventures?
I mean, I really do love fairy tales, and that's such a rich world, and I find them quite feminist in that they're about the disempowered to the empowered. So you have a poor girl who at the time wouldn't have inherited, wouldn't have been able to have a job, but she's found this route up to empowerment by marrying up. And I just find that just so exciting, and that kind of, freedom of society where you can move down from down to up. And I never run out of ideas, but the main thing I do is a lot of reading, and that's hugely important if you want to be a writer. And I keep a lot of sketchbooks and scrapbooks. So I have, for example, just like a general scrapbook. So if I see a picture that I like, I will cut it out and put it in, and then this little guinea pig might give me an idea for a story about something. And those kind of things really, really help. And I think I also like making things. So I've got like little potions here that I just made. And it's quite fun because if you quite like just making and thinking creatively and reading and things, you can start to spot ideas everywhere. And you can also eavesdrop, which is my other big thing. I'm a big eavesdropper. And I have like a tiny notebook. And if I hear something like in a cafe or something, I'll just scribble it down and then I'll just keep it there. And then later on, I might come back to it. So in my study, I have probably 50 notebooks just of anything that I've heard. And if I need an idea, sometimes I just pick up my notebooks and I flick back through and I think, oh yeah, that was a really funny comment that I heard. How can I start to make that into a story? So I don't find that side hard, but the writing is hard work. The ideas, they're fun, but the writing can be like, sometimes it's a bit of a slog.
And how about yourself, Lauren? Because I mean, you illustrate the 13 books and the others and whatnot, and it must be quite difficult to come up with like fresh ideas to portray the same characters in a new adventure. So how do you kind of like draw the inspiration to keep making these books so exciting and amazing and engaging?
Well, I think I try and like take a lot of influence from just like modern culture. So which book was it, the one where like pop stars, like when they get dressed up, I'd like look to like pop stars and stuff and see what they're wearing, or rock stars or whatever. And then like the last one we did was cakes, and then they were dressing up as cakes, and I remember Colin Caterpillar like they can just like put in like just like little references like that. And I think just things around all the time, and films, music, whatever, books, and anything really around, whatever's popular as well at the moment.
I think what's really lovely from what it seems with this series and that is that, sometimes children's books can be really short. So, for the younger ones, it could be like a couple of words per page or something. But even then, you both seem to get this really like, definitely there's a passion that goes into it, which makes the book so much better. But there's such a layered and like multifaceted meaning that it's not just, I'm going to write these few sentences and put them on the page and it's going to be great. There seems to be like a lot of thought and love that goes into it. And as you said about, the meanings and the feminist side and these like underlying themes, it's so important because it just adds these avenues to books that make them so engaging and make people think. And that it's so important in growing up and in that age group to get them thinking for themselves about, what these themes may be. It's putting them into a scenario that they can relate to, that they enjoy, rather than them looking at, an adult world. It makes things easier for them, and it's really, really important. So that's really cool. And yeah, so moving on to our final question. this goes out to both of you. So we'll start with Abie. So if there's anyone out there that, you know, wants to be a writer, if there's anyone that just wants to practice, or they don't know what they're doing and they just enjoy writing, do you have any secret industry advice or tips for them, or help for them to kind of achieve where they want to go?
I think not so much industry advice, although definitely if you've written something, you could try and get an agent. And the best way to do that is the Writers and Artists Yearbook, which lists the agents. But I think the most important thing is just to play. Like, we forget how to play as we grow up. Like, when we're little, we play and we're not scared of making mistakes. But I think as you get older, there's a sense that it's got to be perfect and it's got to be right. It really doesn't. My first drafts are an absolute mess. So are my second, so are my third. You just keep going, and just, it's better to get something down, even if it's a mess, and then you can edit it later. So just do a lot of reading, read really widely, non-fiction, fiction, whatever you enjoy reading, fantasy, crime, whatever, and something will spark. And then just get a little notebook, start to write it down, but don't think, oh, I've got to write a whole book. You don't. Just start by thinking, oh, I wonder what would happen to someone one day who did this, and then just start to think and scribble, see where it goes, and don't be worried about making something perfect.
Amazing. And then for anyone out there that is possibly a really budding illustrator or loves drawing, or doesn't quite know what they want to do, but they kind of have a knack for art or that kind of skill, what would your advice be for them, Lauren?
Well, I would say sort of similar to Abie, like just like play with it, go with it. Don't worry about making mistakes and things like that. And then the other side is, like, if you do want to go into a career or like push it further, I would say don't get disheartened, because like there's a lot of it's a lot of rejection, but don't let that put you off, and just like believe in yourself and just keep going with it, really.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you. The latest Fairytale Hairdresser Red Riding Hood book is out now, I believe. So if you're interested in children's books, in really fun children's books, in adventures, in fairy tales, in deeper meaning children's books, or if you're not, just go and get it anyway. And thank you to both of you for taking the time to chat with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Cheers.